Welcome everybody to episode 257 of The Effing Title. I am Big Husky, and this week I will not be joined by DeNutte. We are reviewing Twilight of the Gods, the newest animated project from Zack Snyder on Netflix. As you guys know, I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan. DeNutte likes a lot of what he has done in the past. We both were big fans of Rebel Moon. We liked what Rebel Moon was doing. We liked the direction of Rebel Moon. So with this coming out, I asked DeNutte, hey, would you be interested in watching this and doing a podcast and doing a review of it? He said, yeah, sure, let's do this. And we sent it. I watched the entire thing in the first day. I watched the first episode before stream on Thursday, to which then I was then blessed. As you can see in the corner. If you can't see in the corner, I posted up a tweet. And I said, wanted to check out the first episode of Twilight of the Gods before stream. All I can say is it's established the main story and made you fall in love with Sigrid. Sigrid is the main character. The main character. The badass female warrior of the story. Animation style is incredible and the music is ridiculously on point. Can't wait to continue. Also, F Thor. I posted this just to post it. It went crazy. It got a lot of likes, got a lot of interaction, got a lot of engagement. But the big thing, though, and this is the blessing that we had, was Jay Olivia, who was the co-director on this. Co-director, he's done a lot of different animation products. He's worked with Snyder in the past. He's done a lot of products, or projects, I should say, that I have been a huge fan of. He did Batman the Dark Knight series animated. He did the Flashpoint animated. He's done a lot of different projects. Justice League Dark animated. A lot of the DC Justice League animated stuff he's done. He's also worked on some Marvel stuff. And yeah, I have it up right now, so that's why my face is. But yeah, so he's worked on a lot of stuff. Love Jay. He's always one of the first people on Twitter to just basically be like, yeah, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Like, shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. Which is hilarious to me, and I love that. I love that he sticks up for his guys, and he won't back down from people who try to say stupid shit. Jay liked the post, as you can see. To which then I had to pause during the episode 4 of it to make another post saying thank you for blessing me. I wasn't following him, which is my bad. Sorry, Jay. But anyways, so Jay blessed us. It was incredible to see that. So on Thursday I watched the whole thing. Asked DeNutte about it. I was like, hey, are you good? DeNutte said, I've watched episode 1. It's good. It's violent. I said, all right, cool. As the weekend progressed, he was busy doing other stuff, but then also he got to episode 6, and by episode 6 he sent me a message. He said, look, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like the show. It's not my thing. It's not what I'm into. I'm going to politely back out of doing the review because I don't want to seem like a hater the entire time. To which I was like, all right, that's fair. That's fair. If you want to do it, come. I gladly would like to have him on and talk to him because it is like it's always more fun talking with DeNutte than it is just solo, right? But I understand it's not his thing. So with that being said, it is solo me today. Still love DeNutte. I can't wait to actually talk to him about this and see like what were the things that he didn't like. I just looked to IMDb to take a look at some of the things that people don't like, and I've just kind of laughed at myself for the last like 10-15 minutes before getting on. But I am a Snyder fan. I was that, to the end of time. I'm a Snyder fan. Always have been a Snyder fan. So for me, I'm always going to be a little bit biased for some of this stuff. But anyways, there's the introduction. So let's get into some of the like the first easy breakdown stuff. The one thing that I've been seeing a lot of is plot. People talking about how like, oh, it's such a predictable plot. It's such a this. How like this is the plot of a 7-year-old and like stupid shit like that. First off, I think the plot is fantastic because it's very simple. It sets up everything. Boom, this is it, right? And with it setting up that and saying, boom, this is it. Towards the end of it, because I'm going to try my best to give no spoilers in this. Towards the end of it, there are some twists and turns that you don't see coming. At least I didn't see him coming. Maybe because I was fully locked in. So the plot is very simple. The plot is this: we start off with Sigrid and Leif. Sigrid is the main character, the main female antagonist of the show. She's a warrior, and Leif is her husband partner sort of thing. They're not married yet, so it's King Leif, and she's not queen yet. So it starts off with them, and they're like, "Hey, let's get married. Let's do this." And Sigrid's like, "I wish you could see my homelands because it's beautiful there." And Leif's like, "Fine, let's leave in the morning." So they leave. They get on horseback. They ride off, and then suddenly there's just water and a giant horn, and then this path comes up through the water, and they ride over the path. And this is where the first part of something that I wanted to talk about I really liked was, they did a fantastic job of separating and making each individual area very unique. So, like I said, this waterway of stones just erupts out of the water as they're going across it, all the way across, and now we are in Jotunheim. And this is when we first find out that Sigrid is part Jotun. Or she is Jotun. So she's a giant. But she's not a giant. She's human size. She's not giant size, which we find very quickly when her brothers show up, play fighting and everything. So Leif and Sigrid go into the main village, which is nicknamed the Open Hand. And Leif is like, "Look, I want to marry Sigrid," and the king is like, "I don't know, man. I don't know." Sigrid's like, "Are we open hand or are we a fist? Like, which one is it? And eventually, the king's like, "All right, yep. If Sigrid loves you, then yes, let's do this. Let's have a wedding." So they plan the wedding. The wedding's getting set up, and as the wedding starts off, and they're about to do it, and they're about to become, king and queen, the skies get dark. Lightning strikes, and here's Thor. And Balder shows up as well, which is really cool. But sure, Thor shows up looking for Loki. Where's Loki? And the giants are like, "We don't want you here. We fear no gods. We don't want you here. You weren't invited here. You need to leave. You haven't introduced yourself. Leave." And Thor is hot-headed. Thor is quick-tempered. Thor is violent. And Thor decides, "Okay, well, if you're not going to tell me where he is, then I'm going to kill all of you." It's basically it. And this goes back to some of the things that people, because of Marvel Studios, because of the common day interpretation of Thor and the way people see Thor, when the actual depiction of Thor is on screen, a lot of people don't like that. Because Thor isn't this goofy, smiley guy. Thor is quick-tempered. Thor is violent. Thor is, So, Thor starts attacking the Jotuns. Thor kills everyone. Everyone. Thor ruins the wedding, or the marriage, ruins the day, and kills everyone. And Sigrid and Leif are pretty much saved, right? They get blown up from an explosion, with the thunder coming down, and Balder sees that they're still alive, and Balder's like, "Nope, there's no one here. Let's leave. It's time to go home. Loki isn't here. Let's just leave," like that sort of thing. To which then this is when we get the main premise of the entire thing, which is Sigrid is kind of lost now. She's losing it. She's just lost her entire family, her entire, village, everyone. and then she gets like sucked down into Helheim. It's very odd at this point. And then suddenly there's this lizard, and we've seen the lizard around a little bit, and the lizard's got blue eyes, and the lizard suddenly changes and transforms, and it's Loki. It's Loki, and Loki's here, and he's like, you want revenge, don't you? A blood oath, like that sort of thing. And that's where the main plot takes place. The first episode drags you in immediately, right? The first episode hits you with it right off the rip. This is what's happening. It's Sigrid is the main character, or is one of the main characters. I would say she is the main character. Thor kills her entire family, kills her entire village, ruins her day that she's to be wed. Now it is time to get revenge. She wants to kill Thor. F the gods, right? That's your plot. Done. It's a simple plot. It's set up straight away, and it's funny seeing people complain about that. Complain about a very simple plot that is set up straight away. Because there are so many movies out today where they try to be overly complex with stuff, and it just doesn't work. Or they set up everything straight off the rip. Like, here it is, boom, this is the plot, right? Hey, here's the bad guy at the very beginning of the movie. The entire movie is now about the good guy trying to, figure out how to be a good guy. End of movie. Now it's the good guy fighting the bad guy. How many times have we seen that play out recently? This is the same thing. It is, here's the story. This is what it is. Now let's go on the adventure. Right? So, like I said, with this, the first thing is like we start off in Midgard, and then we go to Jotunheim. And it's really cool seeing the difference between that, because we also, at the end of the episode, like I said, we see Helheim. Each area is drastically different looking. And it is interesting because Midgard and Jotunheim are the most similar out of all of them. But it's more of like, Midgard is kind of a frozen wasteland, but Jotunheim is like a fully frozen wasteland, it feels like. Or at least the area in Midgard where they're at. Helheim is hell. It's a lot of blues, red for blood, right? Like literally like a tower of blood sort of thing. We also see Vanaheim later on, and Asgard. So all of these areas are really unique and different, and they have like this aura to them, right? You can like tell where you are basically off of just the background and the environment and where you are at. And which is really cool with it being the world tree and the different, and the different areas. So I really like that. I thought that was really cool. Like I said, when she blew the horn and all of the stones came up, and then that's when I realized, like, we're in Jotunheim now. When I realized that, I was completely blown away. Because it was such a unique and simple way of doing it. And Vanaheim, later on, is one of those things where it's like, you need to, like, almost like find it. It's like it's here somewhere, but we just need to find the entrance to it. And then when they find the entrance to it, it's like a giant portal that opens up. And it was a really unique way of showing the different worlds, Also, Nidav Velir, the world of the basically where the dwarves are. We also see for a little bit, but I would say not as much as the other areas. Yeah, so like plot wise though, we start there, and then Loki basically says like, look, you need to basically make a team. You need to get a team of people together and go from there. And the episode 2 is basically that. Episode 2 is basically getting a band of warriors, getting all these different people. It's like, okay, we have this group now. The group is, Sigrid, Leaf. You have a magic wielder, an eagle. Ulfr, who is like a berserker savage. Seidkana, which is basically a witch, which is really cool to see. A lot of different elements to it right there. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, okay, we have all this, here's the plan. We need to get all these different people. There's going to be 5 of us. So you have the witch, you have Ulfr, you have Eagle, Leaf. We need one more. There's one more person that they need. Oh no, there's Sigurd's friend. Sorry, it was Sigurd's friend. Which the name isn't on the screen that I have up right now, which is wild to me. So I'm gonna have to look at that real quick. Where is it? Uh, is it Herver? I think it might be Herver. Herver. I know I'm so well planned out right now. Yes, it's Herver. Okay, so Herver is the fourth, and it's like they need 5. Outside of Leaf and Sigrid, they need 5. So they go to the land of the dwarves, right? Because they need to find the dwarves to have a weapon that can kill a god, right? God killing iron is basically what they're looking for, and they get there, and that's when they meet Andavari. Andavari is the main dwarf that makes all the god-killing weapons, and he's like, I'm joining you, I'm joining. So they set out now. They have all the weapons. The weapons have chosen their people, and they don't require... This was a thing I thought was cool, is that they didn't require payment. The payment is basically like the soul of the individual. Like, the payment will take place when the weapon decides. Like, that sort of thing. That's episode 2. So it's like, it's very, like, the episodes I thought were good as long as you were paying attention. And that's a big one to say, I know. But with it being very heavy on mythos, on it being very heavy on Norse, a Norse that people aren't used to, right? Like that sort of thing. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of material that they put into 8 episodes. So the first episode is setting up, like, this is what's happening. Boom. The first episode sets it all up. The second episode is now, okay, now that here's the setup. Now this is the first step. Now we need to get the warriors. We need to get the weapons. Boom, boom. The third episode, we go, it's okay. Now we are trying to find Vanaheim. We have to get to Vanaheim. And while they're trying to go to Vanaheim, Odin's huntsmen are hunting them. And the thing that is most interesting to me is that Odin's huntsmen had very much a big Lord of the Rings Nazgul feel to them, right? Like, they kind of know where they are and they're hunting after them. Mind you, Hugin and Moonin, the birds, the ravens, are flying over, keeping track of them. But a lot of Lord of the Rings fans will know that J.R. Tolkien was a big fan of Norse mythology and took a lot of elements from Norse mythology into Lord of the Rings. So the huntsman and the Nazgul being similar to a way that I saw them and how they played and how they felt really makes sense. So eventually they find this person and they're like, oh shit, we gotta bring her with us, right? We can't just leave her here. And she opens up the portal to Vanaheim. And Vanaheim is all golds and dark greens and very nature and very, ethereal and just beautiful looking. Thor comes down to show off and kind of, it's like, there you are. Now it's time to end this. I'm going to end this. And at this point, he basically now has crossed the line because now he has broken the agreement with the Vanir gods in Vanaheim. So they get there and they get to Vanaheim and they're like, okay, we need your help. We need your help fighting the Aesir gods. And this is where I could see people getting confused or starting to kind of pull away from it at this point. Because this is episode 4 now. So now we're kind of into it, right? You're starting to get the story going. But now at this point now, because now we're talking about Aesir gods versus Vanir gods. We're talking about the bushel of enchanted apples. We're talking about Fafnir. We're talking a lot of very specifics to Norse mythos. So I'm wondering if this is one of the things, especially for DeNutte, that kind of pulled him out of it, is like there's just a lot going on, right? But yes, so they show up and Tiwaz is there, and Tiwaz is a giant god on a throne that is tree and wood and arm of like almost like a mushroomy looking arm. And T-Waz is interesting because like, so for me, I have this Norse necklace that I always wear, and it is the T-Waz is the name of the rune, which is primarily for the Vanir god Tyr. So I'm wondering if them using T-Waz was a way of using Tyr without using Tyr. It's one of the things I would like to know. But they're talking to him, and the lady that they just saved is the only human that is allowed in Vanir that has been like their like host, or like kind of, like she's been living there and like she serves them, that sort of thing. So they're talking, and while they're talking, they're trying to get the Vanir gods to help them in this war that they want to commit on the Aesir gods, the main gods, Thor, Balder, Odin. They want to go after them. And at this point, there's a worm, and that's why it's called the Worm. Is a worm shows up in the ear of Sigrid, like in the hair of Sigrid, and like in the ear, kind of like like doing one of these, doing a little, like little talky talk in the ear. And she's like, "What if we get you the enchanted apples? What if we get you the apples that you so want? That the Aesir gods stole from you, that Odin stole from you. What if we get you them?" And that's where this episode goes, because now they go to fight Fafnir. Fafnir is a dwarf that corrupted by gold and took gold that was not his, that was cursed, turned into a giant dragon. So they go to fight a dragon. And then the interesting thing is we learn that Andvari and Fafnir were friends. And at this point now we're also starting to see a rift between Leif and Sigrid, where Sigrid's like, "Look, we just need to do this," and Leif is, kind of like, "Hey, like, we don't gotta be so so headstrong with this and killing everything and murdering. Like, we're together still." Like, so they fight the dragon. I'm not going to say how that goes, but they fight the dragon. They get the apples. They take them back to Vanaheim. They give them to T-Waz. Some of the other Vanir gods there start eating them, and then they start choking. And it's like, oh god, they're dying. And that's when we find out that the apples were tainted. As they leave, Leif stays and destroys part of the building and collapses the building. And then they get trapped in a cursed realm. Leif and Loki find themselves trapped in the cursed realm. This is the episode 5, which is called The Scapegoat God, which is easily my favorite episode out of all of them. The Scapegoat God is my favorite episode out of all these. Sigrid and them get out, and then they get out of the temple kind of area, and they're like, "Nope, we need to go back. We need to get Leif. I'm not leaving without him," like that sort of thing. So while they're trapped in the cursed realm, they're seeing their past, and they're seeing things that have happened to them, and they're trying to maintain grips with it. And there's some things that Loki says in this that just is so crushing to the soul. Because he's the scapegoat god is the way that he words it, right? I'm the scapegoat god. I am what the people blame for. I didn't want this. I don't want any of this. It's like I can't. People can't accept themselves because, where is it? Let me see here. Sam and Leif are having a moment together, and he starts crying. "I only exist so men may blame me. Every grinning thief and glutton, every boy with a bed unmade may have a scapegoat god." And it's like that's the whole premise of the episode, is like showing that like Loki isn't just the cunning, conniving, god, but like, there's a side of him that kind of, you feel for him to an extent. There's that aspect of like, yeah, like, it's like, oh, well, Loki made me do it. Loki was talking in my ear, and he made me do this. It wasn't what I wanted to do. Loki made me do it. He's the scapegoat god, So in the end, Sigrid and the group finally break in and destroy the Cursed Realm, saving Leaf and Loki out of it. And now the Vanir gods, the Jotuns, the Jotuns that weren't from their village but from all around, and Loki and their main group are now ready to go fight the gods. And then episode 6 happens, and this is kind of an interesting one because episode 6 is on the eve of war. So it's a full episode that's just about the mythos. It's telling stories. It's telling stories of war. It's telling stories of how they're met. It's telling stories that people don't fully know. Like Loki turning into a horse and getting impregnated by another horse. And then giving that horse to Odin, which is Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse. It tells of, those sort of things. Odin is there. And Odin tells a story or two, too, which is really cool. Seeing the way they did Odin and how Odin is portrayed in this. Odin kind of is a god that is there at all times, but he's not there at all times. He's kind of doing his own thing. He doesn't really pay any attention to what any of the other gods are doing. He's just he's doing his thing. And then the final 2 episodes happen, which is the epic battle begins. Right? Mortals, giants, Vanir versus Thor, the Aesir soldiers, and just everything's going at it. I'm not going to spoil what happens in those 2, or even hint at what happens in those 2. But there are some aspects of things that Snyder has done in the past where he hints and he uses symbolism, and there's no hinting at the symbolism in this one. It's just shown right in your face, and when it happens, it's kind of a oh shit moment. Like, I can't believe they actually did this moment. So that's the plot. As you can see, it's very mainline, right? It's here. The thing with it is that with it being mainline, they throw in so much on top of it that I can understand how people can get muddled with what's happening or kind of lose what is happening to an extent. Because like I said, there's the Aesir gods and there's the Vanir gods. There's dwarves that then turn into dragons. There's this realm and then there's this realm. There's this place and then there's this place. There's characters who we have seen in modern media for so long that are completely different in this, right? So I can understand all those aspects of it. The animation style, I personally loved this animation style. I thought it was killer. The studio that they used was Zillium, which is a French studio. They've also worked on other projects, such as I Lost My Body, Ogie and the Cockroaches, a lot of Chip and Dale Park Life, a lot of animation that I was not expecting after seeing this. But the animation is unique. It felt different. But it fit. Everything felt original visually. But at the same time, it felt familiar. Right, like you see Loki, for instance. Loki is tall in this. He has the bluish skin, the long white hair. He's very thin. The eyes are glowing blue. He is a Jotun, right? He's Laufey's son. So, like, you see that and you're like, okay, that's Loki. You understand that, but it's the visually he does look. It looks very original, but it felt familiar. Same thing with Thor. Thor, big, beard, hair, hammer. Right? You see that and you're like, okay, yeah, that's Thor. However, though, it's an original take on Thor. He's a little bit more brutish looking. He's a little bit more gritty looking. He's not really wearing a shirt or anything. He just kind of has on a cape, a giant belt. And then, little, cloth, basically. Different characters that people are not used to seeing, like Hel, where the face changes because Hell is normally one half of the face is dead, one half of the face is alive. Ulfr looking very berserkerish with the wolf cloak over him. Sigrid being half human. I'm assuming that she's half mortal, half Jotun from the way that it sounded. So she has the markings of the Jotun, which is like the blue tattoos, but she's not massive, right? She's a little bit paler in skin. Leaf just being just straight up a dude. Like he looks like a dude, you know. Each, like I said, each character looks very original, but they felt very familiar. Freya looks phenomenal in this. Baldur is just gold and floating the entire time. He's the golden boy, right? So a lot of the decisions that they made were it was very cool to see. And one of the things that I had here is Jay actually posted this. So a lot of the things that Jay has worked on in the past, electric or like Thorish wise. In 1996, he worked on the Spider-Man animated series. 2000, Static Shock. Hulk versus Thor in 2009. 2010, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He worked on Thor. Spectacular Spider-Man 2008. He worked on the cinematic reveal trailer for Mortal Kombat 11 in 2018, and he worked on Thor Ragnarok. So now he gets to work on his Thor, and one of the things that he wrote here was a lot of people have been wondering where this version of Thor's powers came from. So I wanted to show how this evolution of what I've done over the years on various projects with characters who have lightning powers. I wanted him to be scary and a very overpowered madman. In addition, I also wanted to show a more accurate version of Thor from the original myths, but add my own flair from what I love from anime and my own past works, which really showed. It really showed the love that Jay had in the character of Thor, because like there's aspects of Thor where it's like, yeah, he's mad, he's a psycho. Like, this isn't, like I said at the very beginning, this isn't goofy, happy, smiley Thor. No, this is, I'm just a psychopath, and I just like killing people Thor. And there's a lot of stuff that's kind of wild that they did. There's points where, like, he points his hammer and just almost is, like, shooting, like lightning out of it. One of the coolest ones is someone tries to slice him, and he turns into electricity. He turns into lightning and just walks through the person, and it splits them in half. And like a lot of these visually are so stunning because when they do it, it's a dark environment. Because when he shows up, clouds appear, darkness shows up over everything, and then when they're doing it, it's light blues, it's whites, it's the bright colors that happen. So it really hits. Every single moment that Thor's on screen and he's doing something with lightning and with thunder and all of that, it hits because of the way that the environment around him is surrounded. Even the Vanir, like I said, even the Vanir gods, very unique, very naturistic, very of the earth. One of them is like just a cloud of bees, basically. One of them literally looks like a tree. One of them looks like a plant that is like a womanly plant. It's very organic, very naturalistic. So seeing that, and then the Aesir gods, and the Aesir gods are, some of them are cloaked. Like I said, Baldur is just, a giant glowing golden child, basically, right? Like he's a man, but he's just, he's perfect. Everything about him is perfect. Which fits Baldur to a T. The dwarves look like dwarves. I don't think I really need to get into that one. The dwarves are short, big beard, like drinking, and just, we only see a couple of them. It's mainly just Andvari that we see with the dwarves. But, tonally, though, each character fits with what's happening. Each character looks like that sort of a character. If I show you Thor, you see Thor. If I show you Loki, you see Loki. That sort of thing. So I really liked it. I genuinely liked the style. It's different. And it's one of those things that when I was reading some of the comments on IMDb and I was laughing, it's because a lot of them were like, yeah, the animation is bad. And I'm sitting there like, how can you genuinely say that? Like, the animation looks dope. Now, like, this is the thing. Could they have done, in quotations, better animation? Sure, that's not the point. The point is that they had an animation styling. This is how we want to do it, and they stuck to it, and it worked, and it looked great, in my opinion. Right? It'd be the same thing as arguing about games that use pixel art versus games like Hellblade or Space Marine 2, where it's ultra realistic looking, right? Versus games that are 2D platformers or, like I said, pixelated games. It's similar to that, right? So I found that very weird that we're critiquing animation styles when the animation style is consistent throughout the entire thing and works throughout the entire thing. The voice cast, fantastic. It Great. I genuinely liked them. There's sometimes when like you're hearing stuff and you're like that voice sounds familiar. Now, why does that voice sound familiar? That sort of thing. And there's a couple of them that was really funny to see. So, for instance, the main one was Leaf. Leaf voice actor is his voice is Stuart Martin, and Stuart Martin played Den in Rebel Moon. Kind of cool seeing that. And Davari, I want to make sure I get his name right, is Christopher Hivju, which you may not know who that is, but he's Tormund, Giantsbane from Game of Thrones. Dope hearing that voice again. Odin is John Noble. Ulfar is Peter Stormare. So there is a lot of voice actors that you will know, and then there's a lot of voice actors that might be newer to you. Johann Asbach, I'm butchering these names and I apologize drastically for it, is another Game of Thrones guy. Euron Greyjoy. He is the voice of Thor, and it is the wildest thing because you're so used to thinking like this is what Thor sounds like, and then when you hear a different version of it, it doesn't take you out of it, but it's like, okay, that's interesting. And I know there's a lot of people that have said like, oh, that's not a great voice for him. I genuinely thought the voice was solid for the character. Patterson, before I get to Patterson Joseph, Rahul Jolie. Like I said, I'm butchering so many of these names. I'm sorry. iZombie, Ravi from iZombie. He's in this. He is the voice of Eagle, and Eagle is a great character, funny, kind of a heart character to an extent. Has a big role in the show. Sigrid, voice actor, is Sylvia Hoeks. Most well known for she was in Blade Runner 2049. Bros Before Hoes. Yeah, I'm not sure then. She's a new one to me, but she's the voice actress for Sigrid. She's from the Netherlands. I thought she did a fantastic job with the with Sigrid. The one that I think, though, is the best out of all of them, and this is what I've been saying, is Patterson Joseph. Patterson Joseph was the voice actor for Loki. He was in The Walking Dead, Cold Feet, William Mary, Peep Show. I'm just trying to see any of these that are like bigger names. He was in Doctor Who, Survivors. The filmography on this site is terrible because it's all over the place. Like, it just went from like 2020s to like really early. He's been in a couple films. He's a stage actor. He's done some audio and radio stuff. He did the Sandman audio. Interesting. But he plays Loki in this, and he does a fantastic job with Loki. I genuinely don't think I'll be able to hear Loki's voice without hearing his from now on, which is wild to say considering that we've had Tom Hiddleston being Loki for so many years. But it just, the voice acting was so heartfelt, I felt, with a lot of the characters. It genuinely felt like they really put their all into it. and you could really feel them being those characters, which is another thing that I know that I've seen a lot of people talking about was like the dialogue in this was rough and it was tough to understand, and you can't fully understand what they're saying, or like there's times when, you know, like, oh well, the subtitle said this but it didn't sound like they said this, and it's one of those things where people have different tastes, and I know this is one of those things, especially with being a Snyder thing. As soon as it's a Snyder thing, the people that hate Snyder or genuinely just don't like him will immediately go all in on just saying how bad it all is. Are there some lines that felt bad, or I don't even want to say half-assed because that's not the right way of wording it, but like, were there some lines where it's like, okay, or like that sort of thing? Sure, I'm pretty sure you can find that in any movie or show. I don't think there's a single movie or show where every single line of the dialogue in it is perfect. What I will say is this: is there's a lot of moments that are fantastic lines in the show. Like I said, the scapegoat god, him saying about people blame him for everything. I'm the scapegoat god. When they're telling the stories like this, it genuinely felt like storytelling, like sitting around a campfire and listening to storytelling. Thor basically just being like, when he first introduces himself, is terrifying because you go from like, you think you know who Thor is to fully seeing the psychopath and the madman fully appear in front of you, and then seeing him murder and butcher everyone. It's, I don't know, man. It's one of those things I genuinely dislike so much when people bash stuff when everything else is like that too. Like little stuff like that. Like, oh, the dialogue's bad. Dialogue's bad in almost every movie. There's almost every movie or show. There's always bad dialogue, right? Oh, this is bad. That's how it is in everyone. Like, what are you talking about? This is my thing. To wrap this up, right? Because I didn't know how long I was going to go with this, with it just being me. And I wanted to give just an overarching review. I didn't want to go too deep into anything. Because I genuinely think people should watch this. Because for me personally, I watched it the first day, and I've watched it again since. And I'm probably going to watch it again here within the next couple of weeks when I have time. Because I'm actually put too much on my plate recently. I genuinely like this. I loved the simplistic story to an extent that just has a shit ton of mythos in it. And that's the thing that made it for me, was that, like, because the plot was easy, being able to throw in that much mythology and that much myth and lore was just fantastic. Because, like I said, I'm still trying to figure out if T-Waz is Tyr, right? Because it would make sense if it was. But they don't use Tyr, they say T-Waz. So it's like, that's one thing I'm trying to figure out. The ending could be interpreted multiple different ways, I feel like. I really hope there's a season 2 so we can find out. There's a lot of things that happen towards the end of it where it's like, hey, why didn't this happen? Did this happen? I want to watch it and be very critical one day. Because the first time I watched it through was because I first time watching it, boom, honeymoon phase. Second time I watched it, I could kind of see some of the things that people were saying, like, like that they weren't fans of, but it didn't ruin the experience for me. I still liked it. I still liked what I was seeing. I liked the overall premise. I liked the characters, the voice acting, the setting, everything. I also love Norse mythology. I love that mythos. I love all of it, right? So that also kind of plays into it as well. There is sex. There is violence. I know there were some people that were saying, like, oh, moody teenage boy, do. They sound like the same people that are like, oh, you're 30 and you play video games, do. The people that, oh, you're a man, why aren't you just building houses and doing that sort of shit. That's what those people sound like to me when I read that. It's a R-rated animated series. If they want to show a giant wiener hanging out, then they're going to show a giant wiener hanging out. And it's amazing because a lot of the things that I did see revolved around, leaf being hung like a horse. None of it referred to the countless times you see Valkyrie's tits out, or the countless times the Sigrid's tits are out. Right? Almost all the times are referred to just the dudes. So maybe those people need to look at themselves more. And then, like, this sex part, there's 4. There's 4 sex parts. And each one of them is, like, it's not just like, oh, look, let's just... No, each one of them is a certain thing. Like, it's setting up a certain thing. Like, hey, this is happening here, and hey, this happened. Actually, it's 5 now that I think about it. Yes, 5. Sorry, I missed one. But each one is setting up the story or a backstory or showing it. It's not just like, hey, look, let's have sex. No, it is an emotional thing, or it is a setting up the story, setting up a backstory, showing something. It's not just there for like, oh my god, right? And the violence thing, it's R-rated. It's going to be violent. No one has problems when Deadpool shoots a bunch of people, you know, and there's blood splattering everywhere. But as soon as you put it in animation, then it's like, oh my god, how dare you, right? I genuinely thought it added to it. And I know that Zack is very heavy-handed with that sort of stuff, of being, you know, the violence shows. Hinting at violence is one thing. Showing violence is another thing. It just adds another layer to the overall... Oh, see, this is the thing. If DeNutte was here, he would just be able to finish this in for me, because I know I'm gonna mess this up. The overall impact and weight of what's happening, right? You could cut away and just show blood splattering everywhere, and then everyone's dead, and there's nothing there, and it's like, oh my god, he killed everyone, right? You could do that, or you could physically show him bashing people's brains in, physically show him cutting people in half and cutting arms off, and like, you know. There's a I can't, dude, the words right now are just not there for me. Basically, it's different, it's more impactful, and it's more prevalent when it's shown versus when you hint at it. And that's one of the things that I personally like. I like, just hit me with it, right? Don't hint at it, hit me with it, right? So that's my thing. Overall, DeNutte isn't here, so you can't give a score. We always give scores. Normally I do it at the beginning. This time I just wanted to rant a little bit and just kind of go into this. I only have a little bit of notes and a couple things on my screen. I wanted to be very organic, very original, very just kind of, you know, off the cuff with this. This time, instead of having a lot of notes and trying to read off my notes and trying to make sure I hit everything, I just wanted to give you guys just a open, this is genuinely what I think, without having too much written down. I'm going to give it between a 4 and a 4.2 out of 5. This is easily top 5 top 5 animated work / like work project title, whatever you want to call, however you want to call it. This is easily a top 5 for me. The fact of it being Norse mythology, the fact of the visual stylization of it, the story, the emotional heights that you hit in this. Like I said, like the scapegoat episode, where you find out why Loki is setting all of this up, and why Loki sent Sigrid to go do this. When you find that out, and then him, you know, kind of, you know, you feeling bad for him, you know, because, like, yeah, like, people just, you know, use his name poorly. Maybe he isn't like this. Maybe he isn't the cunning backstabber that everyone thinks he is. Maybe he is just the one that everyone says is the cunning backstabber. That's not who he actually is. Who knows? I guess you'll have to find out when you watch it. I would say watch. This is my thing, is like, I'm going to be very specific with the way I word this. Watch this. I'm not going to say give it a chance. Watch it. Watch it. There's 8 episodes. 32, 27, 27, 30, 29, 29, 27, 42. You can get through this in an afternoon. If you watch it all the way through as well, you'll be able to keep your, like, kind of where you are, what's happening, very easily. Now what I will say is this. If you dislike Snyder things, if you not a huge fan of Zack Snyder, one, why are you considering watching it? Two, you're probably not going to like it. And it's one of those things that I don't understand from content creators, media, reviewers, and all of that. If you're not a fan of something that someone does, or if you're not a fan of a certain genre, or if you're not a certain fan of a certain thing, right, like property, why comment on it? Why give your 2 cents? Why do any of that, right? I'm not a huge fan of the MCU. I've made this clear. I've said it before. However, though, you guys don't see the effing title doing reviews of every MCU movie and me just bitching and complaining the entire time because I don't like certain things. There's no point. There's no point. Like, why be negative just for the sakes of being negative? If I don't like an MCU thing, I'm not going to watch an MCU thing. I'm not going to comment on the MCU thing. I'm not going to just do that for the hell of it. However, though, I feel like with Zack Snyder's stuff, it has become a very popular thing now these days to just be a hater for no reason. Right? Oh, I dislike it. Why? Because everyone does, and I want to be like everyone else, and cool, bro. I liked this. I thought it was really good. I really hope that there's a season 2. I know that this took a long time to make, so I really hope that this does well and there is a season 2. But I'm intrigued to hear what you guys think. Good, bad, indifferent. I'm just intrigued to hear. I would prefer not bad simply just because there's no point being negative for the sake of being negative, right? If there's actually like critiques, or if people are actually like, hey, this is something that I didn't understand, or this is something I didn't like about it, then that's fine. Because I know for a fact, like this is one of the things me and DeNutte were talking about beforehand, was that this is one of the first times we haven't agreed on something that we've watched in a long time. And by a long time, I mean like 2 years worth. If DeNutte was here, you wouldn't see us attacking each other. We would be talking about it, and we'd be like, okay, I kind of see what you're saying, versus, okay, yeah, no, I don't see that. But that would be it, though, right? So yeah. Let me know what you guys think of Twilight of the Gods. Would you like to see a season 2? Would you like to see a season 2? What did you think? What was your favorite part of it? Like I said, mine was the entire Scapegoat God episode. Episode 5, I think, was one of my favorite episodes. Yeah, overall, just let me know, down in the comments down below, right? Thank you, Jay Olivia, for blessing us as well. I really do appreciate that. That meant a lot to me. So, yeah. Depending on where you are, morning, afternoon, even night, stay out of trouble, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye. I would love to see, and it doesn't have to be Zack, per se, but I would love to see more things like this. And by like this, what I mean is there's so many different mythos around the world. Like I see on Netflix right now, there's a Blood of Zeus animation. I would love to see, like, for instance, like a King Arthur Merlin, a Native American, a Aztec, a Egyptian, we have Black Myth Wukong right now. So, something from that area. I think that would be really cool to see. Just different series. Have it be a season or 2. Set the story up kind of like this. Set it up so the story's right there. Have a little twist here and there, right? But have the main part of the story. Boom. There it is. Very simple. Go along with it. But then dump the mythos and the lore into it, to get people involved and excited and intrigued about it. I would love to see that personally. I think that'd be the greatest thing ever, because I love this sort of stuff. I love mythology. I love all this. It's one of the reasons why there was a game called Never Alone, I think it is, that I played. I want to say it's called Never Alone. It's either Never Alone or Never Left. I don't want to say Never Left now. I want to say Never Alone. This about Alaska and the Alaskan mythos and lore and history. And that was a fantastic, Never Alone, yes. That was a fantastic series. Because it had the Inuits, actually talking about it. So like this is that, these little critters are like, you don't mess with them. They're mischievous, right? But they're around. This is the main story. I think that would be a really cool thing to see them do. And like I said, it doesn't have to be Zack. I would love to see it in animation though, like this, a couple episodes, 8 to 10 episodes, do a season or two. Boom, here's the story. Dump the mythos in and go from there. That's all I'd like to see. That's my final thing. But enough listening to me and me running my mouth. Go watch Twilight of the Gods.